Welcome to a new Team CGC 9.8 video. Today I have 5 underrated 9.8 comics I would be buying now. So I do have these ones in my collection, but if I didn't, I probably would be out there trying to buy them. So let's have a look. First one, it's an Iron Man 219 in a 9.8. Pretty great collector item in a 9.8. Not too many of them out there in a super high grade. I'm a fan of Bob Layton Iron Man. Get a pretty great Bob Layton cover on this one with first appearance of Ghost. So just one that I remember when it popped up on an auction when I had bought this one. It's there's 69.8s in a blue label. At the time when I purchased it, I think it was just under 50, so kind of in the 48 or 47 or so of them in the super high grade. So I thought that was a pretty great collector item. The Ghost was in one of those MCU movies. I think it was like The Wasp or something like that. I didn't end up watching that one, to be honest, but more for me buying this one. But you know, it was I think mid-2020 when I had purchased mine. It was just more about like, wow, pretty great collector item. Less than 50 of them in a blue label. Great cover. Big Bob Layton Iron Man fan, so it was making sense for me regardless of kind of the MCU character. But a 1 of 60. In the blue label, 9.8, 16.1%, 9.8 ratio. That's not too bad at all. So kind of having a tough time finding some recent sales on this one. I had purchased mine in an auction for a $225. It was right around the $225 level. Funny, shortly after, like another one had popped up and sold in an auction for like $180 or something. It was like $185 or so, and I was a little bit bummed. You know, thinking maybe at the time it was a bit of an overpay. But I saw a few of these sell since, and I think they're right around the kind of $225 to $250 level, so pretty much right where I'd purchased mine. Admittedly, pretty tough to find this one, with only 60 out there in a blue label. So if you really like it, it's almost one of those where, you know, you get a 1 of 60. Maybe you'd want to pay up to like about $300, and I'm pretty sure I was kind of having a tough time finding some recent sales on this one, but I think the price range is kind of $200 to $300, sort of depending on how much you want this one. But a great collector item, a 1 of 60, and just a pretty cool Iron Man key issue to consider collecting in a 9.8. All right, next one of my favorite Batman key issues of all time, pretty much. A Batman 366 with an awesome classic Walt Simonson Joker cover on this one. Yeah, this really, when I had kind of got back into the hobby, I didn't really like this cover that much, but over time it just grew on me to like pretty much being one of my favorite Batman covers of this era. Really love this Joker cover. First time you get a Jason Todd in the Robin costume on this. Not the first official Robin, but it kind of predates the official Robin, so it's kind of a cool one to consider from that angle as well. Great collector item, 180 9.8s in a blue label, 26.4%, the 9.8 ratio. So I do have 2 of these in a 9.8. This one, I got so lucky. This was like one of the first 5 9.8 comics that I had purchased, and I was able to get the newsstand of the Batman 366 then. And I sort of knew what the newsstands were back then, but, you know, I pretty much since then, I hadn't saw a Batman 366 in a newsstand. So I do have another direct edition as well on this one. But some recent prices. Saw one sell on Comic Link for $396. This might have been about 2 months ago or so. Maybe 3 to 4 months ago, I saw one on eBay go in an auction, and it ended up going for like $275. So, you know, a recent one selling for $275, another one for $396. I think, you know, if you really like this one, and it looks great in kind of a new case, 9.8 white pages, paying up to that $396, I think is completely worth it. I've got a great pride of ownership out of this one, especially if you just like this. Yeah, the Walt Simonson Joker cover. This one's just kind of can't miss. Let's call it under 400 in a 9.8. I think it's a great 9.8 comic book investment if you're a Batman fan, for sure. Next one, it's Deadpool #1 from 1997. So I was really looking for kind of a secondary Deadpool key issue to add to my collection when I'd grabbed this one. Probably like 2018, 2019, pretty early on grabbing this Deadpool #1. But I'm a big Ed McGuinness fan. So personally, the Deadpool first solo titled Deadpool comic, what is it, Circle Chase? I'm just not a fan of that cover, never have, of like the covers with the big letters on them, and there's, not much action going on the covers. I was never really a fan of that Deadpool #1, even though that is the first solo titled Deadpool comic. But in this one, you get a first appearance of T-Ray and Blind Al. So yeah, T-Ray is like one of Deadpool's main villains, adversaries, and Blind Al is like Deadpool's kind of Alfred. Like Blind Al helps Deadpool out, as you saw in kind of the Deadpool movies, I'm sure. So this one's just a great collector item. I think it's a king-size one too, so giant-sized book. Pretty tough in a 9.8. There's 549, 9.8. So a lot of these got graded when, Deadpool got in the movies and, everyone was getting their Deadpool key issues graded. Certainly New Mutants 98. This one's up there though as well. 26.7%. The 9.8 ratio, not too bad. About 1 in 4 are 9.8s. I think it's because it's a giant size. They're a little bit tougher to kind of keep in the super high grade. So for this one, I think right now, in the sort of 200 to 250 range, I saw a signature series one sell for 250 actually. So maybe if you're super patient on an auction, you get this one under 200. But I think that was a pretty great deal. It was an Ed McGuinness signature series in an old case, and I believe it sold for a little over 250. So maybe in the 225 range to the 200, 225, let's call it. I think Deadpool #1 from 1997, sorry, is completely worth it if you're a big Deadpool fan. Maybe looking for a kind of a secondary Deadpool key issue on top of a New Mutants 98. That's where I kind of bumped in and bought a Deadpool #1 from 1997. Okay, next one is a great Batman key issue as well. I like my Batman villains, Detective Comics 583. This is a first appearance of Scarface and the Ventriloquist. So the kind of gangster ventriloquist looking, or the ventriloquist looking guy holding the little gangster dummy. Just a really like weird idea, but over time it's just kind of awesome, and only in Gotham, I guess, you get a Scarface and the Ventriloquist type of villain. But great cover, yeah, Mike Mignola, great cover on this one. Pretty big first appearance. There's probably some potential with the Scarface and the Ventriloquist. I think he was on the Gotham show, and I heard that was well received. I watched some of the Gotham show, but I hadn't watched like it all the way through, so I hadn't saw the Scarface and the Ventriloquist episodes. But I'm sure it's pretty good, and there's probably some future potential there. Yeah, I think if they went on like a big budget Batman movie with a Scarface and the Ventriloquist, it would be really creepy and pretty cool. But in the meantime, great cover, pretty great collector item, 169, 9.8s in a blue label, a 10169, pretty great, 27.6%, the 9.8 ratio. And I think this one right around $250 US, all US dollars, the prices we talk about. I think it's a pretty great deal, and I'm pretty sure I paid about $220 or something for mine, like a little bit over 200. You might even be able to get that, if this kind of pops up on an auction, maybe you get it around the $200 level. I think it's a pretty great one around that price, but it just looked great. Actually, mine's a pretty great looking copy with the colors and everything. So if it just looked great, I think it's worth even up to $250. On a Detective Comics 583, another one if you're a Batman fan. Certainly I'm a pretty big Batman fan myself. And last one is Batman Arkham Knight #1. And I actually have two kind of bonus picks from my collection as well that I would be trying to buy probably. But a Batman Arkham Knight #1, its first appearance of Arkham Knight in comic books. Out of DC continuity, there's the other Arkham Knight that's in, I believe it's like Detective Comics 1000. Like Astrid Arkham is her name. I believe it's a female character. This is the Arkham Knight pretty much from like the video game, the Arkham Knight. So it's like Jason Todd's possessed, he becomes the Arkham Knight basically is how it ends up, how the plot twists or whatever. But Arkham Knight is kind of just like a militarized Batman. And I'm pretty sure like Joker, it's been a long time since I read this, but Joker gives like Batman and Jason Todd and a few other people like some serum that makes them go all crazy. But and Jason Todd kind of goes full crazy and gets all militarized as the Arkham Knight. So this is the first appearance though. There's 66 9.8s in a blue label. This one, yeah, came out in 2015, and the Arkham Knight game came out in 2015 as well, so this kind of came out alongside with that game. 77.6%, the 9.8 ratio. And you can get this one right around 100. It's one of those, like, there's only 66 out there, so an auction pops up, maybe you get it under 100 if you're really lucky, but, you know, if you kind of want it now, if you think it's cool, probably be willing to pay up to like 125, maybe even 150 for this one. I've enjoyed having it in my collection. I like the Batman, like Arkham City, Arkham Knight games and stuff like that as well. So if you're into that, this one's kind of a great one around the $100 level, I think, in a 9.8. Okay, a couple bonus picks. Didn't want to bring them out. It just gets to be a lot after like 5 books. A DC Spotlight #1. I do have this one in a 9.8. It's a great one. It's first appearance of Batman The Dark Knight Returns in a preview, and Watchmen in a preview as well. So big first appearances. Super tough one in a 9.8. I purchased mine for, it was like a little over $400, probably in like early 2021, I want to say, maybe late 2020. And since then I've saw them sell for around $600. And I think, yeah, if you're a Batman Dark Knight Returns fan, this is a great option. Certainly if you're a Watchmen fan as well, it's a great option. And I hadn't saw any recent sales on that one. Again, it's like a 1 of 30 something. Like, there's not a lot of these. It was a free comic book back in the day, so I think people just, you know, were throwing them away basically, and not too many survived. But one to consider, certainly, if you're a Watchmen or a Batman Dark Knight Returns fan. Okay, last one, yeah, quick one, is a Green Lantern 141. I do have this one in a 9.8, a great one. George Perez cover, great cover, awesome eye appeal on this one, and it's a first appearance of Omega Men. I think Omega Men is, you know, the team is probably one of the better, you know, first appearances. You might want to call it a speculative first appearance, because, you know, if they came out with like Omega Men movies, sort of like how they did with Guardians of the Galaxy movies, I'm sure this one would do so well. But if not, great George Perez cover. It's another one of these, like, since these are a bit underrated, there's not a lot of them in a 9.8. I didn't look on the census this morning, but I think it's about like a 1 of 40 in the blue label. And yeah, I was lucky to grab one on eBay probably in 2020, like in the mid-2020s. Yeah, right as the market was really starting to heat up. But this one was a little bit under the radar. It was $300. And since then, I'd saw them go for kind of $275. I'd saw them go for like $375. So it's just one, I think, it's just a great collector item. There's some potential there with Omega Men. And yeah, for me, it's probably worth getting up to about $400 if you're just a George Perez fan, you're a Green Lantern fan. Yeah, for DC, I'm like pretty much Batman exclusive, but I like a little bit of Green Lantern, and, you know, maybe like a little bit of John Constantine, Swamp Thing as well. But besides that, that's pretty much it for me for DC books. But a Green Lantern 141, such a cool DC key that if you can get it in the super high grade 9.8 for under $400 US, I'd probably do it. Yeah, and I bought mine for, yeah, what, a little over 300. It was a couple years ago. Okay, we'll leave it at that. Yeah, a couple underrated 9.8s. I do like my sort of, not your obvious key issue, but a little bit underrated in the super high grade. A lot of times you just get a really great collector item. Like, you know, the obvious key issues, there's going to be like 1,000 9.8s or 2,000, but the not so obvious ones, still really cool. And a lot of times, yeah, it's like a 1 of 169, a 1 of 66, a 1 of 180, a 1 of 60. Like, really, you know, great collector, kind of limited collector items to have in the super high grade. All right, team, so hopefully you got some ideas. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you on the next one. If you're liking my content, please subscribe and hit that bell, and I'll keep you updated on future videos.